restart the recording. Hello, everybody. How are you all? Good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, doing well. We can hear you.
Good. All right. So who is here? Ariana, I just let you in. Talia is on her way to Cleveland. Cleveland. There is a Cleveland, Arkansas, isn't there?
I have no idea.
Yeah, there is.
Maybe that's what she meant. 10:15. Taryn. No. Paul isn't here. Reagan. Joe, I just let in. The Destiny, I saw you. Raina is in the classroom. Dana, I saw you. Abby, I saw you. Veronica, there you are. Brenda, I saw you. DeAsia's going to be absent. Elizabeth. Whitney, I saw you. And Melissa. Great. I wanted to give a public service announcement to start with. Today is the deadline for the census. And if you haven't completed your census, you should do so. All you have to do is go to take the census. I think it's actually, if you do this, start here and click on respond. It's my2020census.gov. So if you haven't responded yet, tonight at midnight, well, 11:59 and 59 seconds Hawaiian time is the deadline. So just want to make sure you've done that. Also, I hope, as long as I'm doing public service announcements, that you've got plans for the election, whether you're going to go in person or remotely or by mail. There's still a deadline. There's still time to request an absentee vote ballot. In Central Arkansas, there is early voting at all of the libraries plus the courthouse. And that starts on October 19th, which is next Monday. So just to let y'all know. Today we're, so let's see, let me go back to over here. Today we're going to talk about report format and also about sort of how can you use the research that you've gotten from the interviews and other places. And if we have time, we'll start talking a little bit about APA. So on the website is a link about report format. And I found this link just by Googling, which is unusual, but this is so helpful for me as a teacher of this course, because almost all of the open educational resources stuff out there talks about specific types of reports like recommendation reports or feasibility reports. And they don't talk about reports in general, and this website does. So this is just sort of generic report writing format. And as it says, it will often have different reasons and different contexts. And it says here, ultimately, the goal of a report is to relay observation to a specific audience in a clear and concise style, which is your basic principle about workplace writing, actually. It is report writing is informative. That's kind of what makes it a report as opposed to something else, although even that's not generic enough, because there are actually recommendation reports, feasibility studies that will actually have an opinion at the end. So it's not just information. But this page talks about the readers, the purpose, the use of the report. So this assignment is to write a report for an audience of either current students or potential students in your profession or discipline. So basically, you are trying to write to other students like you who are studying what you are about the writing in the profession or discipline, because that is something helpful for them to know. And you know a lot about what it is to be a student. So it shouldn't be that hard to, to envision an audience for doing this. And basically, if it's interesting to you, you're gonna try to make it interesting to somebody else. Then the thing about reports as opposed to essay writing is that they will often have headers and sections that are subset. One of the key things about all of professional and technical writing is that they are often written for an audience that doesn't read the whole thing. That they assume that some people, when reading, will only read the beginning and the end, or will only read an abstract, which you see in a required APA format. Or they will only read what's called an executive summary if it's in a business context. That's different from academic writing. Academic writing, the assumption is somebody's going to read the whole thing. And so the whole idea behind having headings and subsections is to make it easy for the reader to access it and locate the information. So these are your basic sections that you're going to have. And you could definitely have a summary and intro heading. And then you can have in your body subheadings for the various topics. And the way this whole little explanation is said, it's all what seems appropriate for you. So one of the things that's in here is recommendations. You can decide to have recommendations at the end of this report or not. Just kind of depends on how you envision writing it. You will probably not have appendices in this report that provide extra things. And then it also talks about different types of style and different types of reports. And you can click on these links and get a little bit more information in that. This is from one of these all-purpose website type thing, Your Dictionary, and kind of like the about sites. I don't know if you've seen that. Whoops. Okay. Questions about report writing format? No, it's pretty straightforward.
Will we be writing one of these reports in this class?
That's what this assignment is, to write a report. So the assignment that is due next Thursday is a report about writing in your discipline. Is that clear? Dana?
Clear as mud.
Okay. So I know one of the things that goes on with this assignment is people think the assignment, because I've asked you to start by doing an interview, is to write up the interview. And in fact, this is an assignment about writing in the profession. And I'm going to, let's see. Oh dear. Now I lost my, guess I won't do that. This is an assignment about writing in the profession. And you're going to have a variety of topics that you write about. You're going to have a variety of topics that you write about. And I talked about this a little in class on Tuesday. That's not very good. I want speaker view. In video. So not sure. Not very well. Guess I'll just have to do it with my hands. So you may have, you will have several sources that you've gotten, including interviews, articles, and maybe some resources from the discipline. But you're not going to write about the interview, the articles, and the resources from the discipline. You're going to write about topic A, topic B, topic C. And when you talk about those topics, you're going to use the research that you did, either through interviews, articles, or disciplinary organizations. It will, maybe it'll make a little bit sense if we work on this project, or work on this handout. So I'm going to put a handout, a Google Doc, in the chat. If I can find it. All right, you don't have to log into this document for us to work with it, but you may as we go on. So what I'd like to do right now is see if we can have a discussion about what you found in, about writing in your profession. And what I've done here is I've come up with 4 topics that a person might want to write about. So I've been saying that your report's going to be organized by topics, not by the sources. And so these are 4 topics that you might want to write about. These are also the topics that many of you have probably asked questions about in the interview. And then by topic, I have a line here for each of the professions that's represented in the class. So let's start here. What did you guys find out? So the first category is genres or types of writing. So I guess this is for everybody. What kinds of writing did you find? And I think if you can raise your hand, you guys know how to raise your hand?
Yeah, I do. In the chat section or the participant section.
Yeah. Why is mine not letting me see the whole thing? Oh, here it is. All right.
Dr. Matson?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. This might be like super annoying because I know you've said this more than once.
Yeah.
But the website to go to that library thing where we can find articles, we just get to that from the Euler website, right?
Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So we can find it just by going to the regular Euler website. We don't have to go to any other
No, you go to the
website or
ULR library, you go to the ULR website and then you look for the library.
Okay.
And
Okay, cool.
on,
Thank you.
On week 8, there is a sample search. For doing a search in the library, and I go through
Okay.
step by step. So I found 2 articles. This was for a different assignment, but the process is exactly the same. And so I tell you, go to their library databases, look for this, look for the databases, select X, etc. Okay?
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
So going back to this assignment. All right, so if to talk, I think it's better if you raise your hand, which you can get from the participant link. Does everybody see that? Except I don't see the raised hand option.
Yes, it shows up under participants. Sorry, I didn't raise my
I guess
hand
I
this
can't raise my
time.
hand
It shows
because,
up under the
okay, because I'm not the host. All right,
Oh, yeah, that's
so
true.
we're going to start by talking about types of writing, which I have on the screen here. So those of you who are in nursing, or interested in going into nursing, what types of writing did you hear about?
Documentation.
Documentation? So in the classroom, documentation of what?
Like patient information. Data, basically.
I'm sorry, say it a little louder.
Patient information, data.
Did others hear about documentation in the nursing field?
Yes, you document. Yes, you document everything in the nursing field.
So besides patient information, what else do they document?
La Destiny said writing instructions.
Who are they for?
The patient.
Who are the instructions for?
They're for the
She
patient
said
on
the
what type
patient.
of medicine and treatments they have to have.
So writing instructions to the patient.
I mean,
about-
not to on the patients. I mean, about the medicine they have to take or treatments they have to get.
Okay, so they're writing to whom?
To the doctor?
Well, so some other health professional. It may be somebody else on a different shift.
I think it's basically because some of it is to be passed along to any nurses that also provide care to that patient, and then as well as anybody else who needs the patient's information for their care.
So it could be somebody in your own category, you know, who's going to be working at another time with the patient. This especially happens in any hospital settings. Or it could be to other categories of people who are involved in the person's care who need to know it. Did anybody hear about writing instructions to patients? Because actually that it can be one thing that people do. For example, writing instructions to a patient about follow-up. What's the next thing you do upon discharge? Maybe people don't. Thank you, Ariana. Drives you nuts, doesn't it? What else did you learn about the types of writing? How about in the other areas? Social work.
Hey, I'm just now joining. My interviewee, she explained that they did policy procedure writings. And prior to the position that she has now, she did the social history writings for the children at the clinic.
So Talia, are you in social work or nursing?
Social work.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Policy procedure. What is that? What?
They also do all kinds of reports. They do
Who's talking?
Veronica.
Okay.
They do court letters, letters to the court. They do behavioral contracts. They do insurance reviews. They do treatment plans, discharge summaries. You already got policy and procedure. They write letters to other professionals, other facilities. They write up class and group schedules. And I'll let somebody else add
What's
some
that
more.
mean? Class and group schedules?
Yeah, they have like groups and classes that they have schedules that they have to attend the clients.
Schedule classes. Is it something about
They
the
also
schedule or is
have-
it something about the agenda of the class?
No, they actually have to type, he has to write up like a schedule with the classes listed on it with dates and times and types of schedules or classes that's going to be offered.
Okay.
And they also do, what is that they do? Oh, they do staffings, weekly staffings. And I'll let someone.
Okay, other, Ariana?
The position that I'm looking to go into social work isn't necessarily like the usual social work positions. It's actually a forensic interviewer. But what she put was that she makes notes about the client and what the child talks to her about, just brief notes, because she doesn't want to override the kid thinking that they're writing a whole book about them. And then she also does emails to other professionals in the building in regards to either her research, if she's doing policy changes or helping out with any other type of projects that require writing.
So tell us what a forensic interviewer is.
So I'm not sure how many of you guys have heard of the Child Advocacy Center. That's where children go that if they are in a abusive or have been sexually assaulted in any type of way or form and any type of abuse. So they go there once a claim has been made. And the first thing that they do is what's called a forensic interview. And that forensic interviewer is the person who the child talks to in one space with nobody else in the room, and they try to get as much detail of what happened and what's going on out of the child.
Mm-hmm. And so you would like to do that, or that just happened to be the person you interviewed?
That's what I'm trying to go for, either that or work in the Child Advocacy Center.
Right. Does it require specific training for that? Beyond the just basic?
Yes. Once you go and get your degree, you go to CAMCAC, which is the Child Advocacy Center here in Hot Springs. And then once you go there, you kind of shadow one of the interviewers, and you can't go in the room with the child, but you have to learn special ways to talk to the children, special questions that you need to ask them, and not because you can't put bias on the child. You can't ask questions that'll lead them to an answer you're looking for. You have to lead them to an answer of the correct answer.
Yeah, that's been a really big issue, hasn't it, over the years, with people interviewing children and somehow convincing them to say something that wasn't what actually happened, or not even not even intentionally, you know, it's just what happens because a child is in a different situation.
Yeah, once you become a social worker, you're actually trained and taught to not ask questions more than just the kind of few basic questions, because you can lead them into thinking of a bias and all that, and you're supposed to leave that to the professionals. A lot of police don't know how to do that, and they just straight assume, and so they make the child confess something that's not true.
Right. Although, well, other things people heard about social work?
Yes, there was a couple more. They write letters to family and employers.
About what?
And one of the most important things, and I forgot it, was they do documentation on therapy sessions with the clients.
Yeah,
have to They have to document their sessions.
in this case, it's documenting what happened, right?
Well, sometimes, I mean, they document, some of it's, you know, they're getting information from them, but
Right.
it's just, yeah, what happened during the therapy session.
Okay. Any other, let's see, who else is Talia, did you have anything else to add? Or Abby,
I'm sorry, you said that I what, ma'am?
did you have anything else to add that you heard in terms of types of writing?
It's because of and again, it was my mom. Because of her position being an operations manager, she had actually like a lot of different writings. Just because of her position, she does like with her being over pretty much everyone in the facility, she communicates with everyone in the facility, whether it was training, or in meetings. I'm not by my, I think Abby told you I was on the road, but I'm not by my my notes right now or anything. But
Okay.
yeah, for like I say, from training, case. I'm sorry, let me see.
Okay. How about information science? We have Paul.
Wait, I
who's-
had something to add, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
I raised my hand in the little thing, but I guess you didn't see it. But for the social work, I guess this is kind of like interviews, maybe, but it's like intake reports for inpatient facilities, as well as like starting therapy and stuff. They'll do like intake forms, asking about like your history and
Yeah, I think that's called the biopsychosocial that they complete on them.
yeah, like yeah, maybe, I don't know, but
Biosocial.
biopsychosocial report, or
Biopsychosocial.
I don't know. I know what she's talking about, but I didn't think of that name. But yeah, like intake, basically why you're going into treatment, your history with, you know, mental issues or whatever. Basically, like that's what it entails, if that makes
Sure.
sense. Kind of
So
all
you-
over.
So you can get the background information.
Yeah, the background information pertaining to basically their whole mental history and stuff like that, and also just their basic information they need to get, and
Mhm.
and that kind of fits in with the treatment plans too, but it's like the initial form that they do. But yeah, just wanted to add that.
Okay.
What about progress notes from sessions?
Well, that's what I had under documentation.
Yeah, I thought progress notes.
And Dr. Matson, this is Talia. The proper term was case training.
Case training. Okay.
And so in our facility, they not only have social workers as well, and so they train those employees on how to, you know, act basically as social workers.
Okay. So who added eco mapping? Ariana?
I did. It's not necessarily writing, but it's like kind of a note-taking thing that we tend to do. If you're trying to find out a person's surroundings, such as like what kind of relationships are around them that they can benefit off of, that's what we use to do it.
So it's almost, is it a visual kind of thing almost? So you could sort of a
You
diagram?
can make it a visual thing,
Mhm.
or you can just type it out.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, so information science and law, would anybody like to talk about the types of writing that you had? So, Ariana, your hand's still up, right? Or Veronica? That's old.
That's old.
That's old. How about, so we have 2 people in information science and 2 people in law. Alyssa?
For information science, when I interviewed someone, the most I've got out of it was documenting the Python files, because
Documenting what?
Python.
Python? Like the,
Yes, Python files.
and what are they?
That's for when you're using the coding. That's what you have to do the coding on. And
Okay.
once you insert the coding, then you can document it and save your files.
So you in like normal English explain the codes? Is that what you're doing?
It's really just with like, it's kind of hard to explain. With the coding, you're really not, typing words. It's more of like different, letters and just different like symbols and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So that way, when you run it, it can print off
Right.
what it needs to.
Almost
It's
like
the-
shorthand.
Yeah, it's like the coding behind the program.
Uh-huh.
So it's not much necessarily writing when it comes to information science. That's what I got from the person I interviewed.
Okay. How about Paul? I cut you off earlier. Sorry.
I didn't interview an information scientist because I might be changing that, but I'm
Okay.
also studying management, and that's not going to change. I figure I'll never be the smartest guy in the room, but if I play my cards right, maybe I can tell them what to do. So I interviewed a manager, and really it boiled down to about 4 things. Emails, lots of emails in all different directions. She works for a worldwide company, so we got those, shipping or passing it up the chain to whoever's in regional, stuff like that. Lots and lots of note taking, like on conference calls and whatnot. A lot of reports that she, a lot of times is a template for her, but a lot of other times she, kind of go her own way to make sure everything's documented properly. And a lot of instructions. I guess kind of reports beforehand of, things that need to be done, goals for the day or the week. And
I missed one? You said 4.
Emails, reports, instructions, notes. Takes a lot of notes.
About?
Usually whatever the conference call's about, because there's a lot of those. It might be, notes on, during a walk or inspection or whatnot, but for the most part, there's basically taking notes on what, the next manager up the line is wanting, so that, she can properly implement it and then pass it back later.
Okay. How about Dana and Alyssa talking about law?
For me, the person I interviewed just told me that they take notes from clients. When clients come in, it's more of listening for the issue being what the courts are needing to resolve. So they listen for that issue in when the person's talking, and then everything else they just kind of let go somewhat to the wayside, because those are just fillers and non-important information. But then the writing itself is like applications, orders, motions, that kind of thing. And all that is done electronically now through the court system. He does not write as an APA or MLA or anything. That's just what he said was nonsense and non-applicable through law. The other thing was not to use $9 words, because people do not understand $9 words. Keep it simple, keep it clean, write on a elementary application for people to better understand what you're trying to convey to them in everything that you write.
Okay, so I'm going to add a new topic. Based on what you just said, and this topic is style of the writing in this profession. Perhaps others of you heard about that as well. And avoid $9 words, keep it simple, clear, direct. Did anybody else hear about style in your profession?
In social work, this is Veronica, I heard basically to be concise, to be thorough, be concise and be thorough. Because, you know, some of your information or documentation could be used in a court hearing or a trial at some point.
Alyssa, what did you hear about types as well as style?
Okay, well, basically, someone in the law profession, especially an attorney, has to be able to communicate with like all types of people. So I'm going to have to know how to write emails to my clients, letters to my clients, and then I'm also going to have to be able to write like with legal jargon. So I'm going to need to know how to be persuasive whenever I'm writing my like opening statements and things like that. And then I'm going to need to be able to write more factual based that's not really necessarily persuasive whenever I'm writing briefs.
And others.
And clarity is like key to everything.
In either one of those, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everything, clarity is number one.
So is it possible for you guys to add to this? Okay, you guys are doing great. It sounds like you had a lot of very good, useful interviews. I want to shift to another thing that I said about finding information. And that was to look for disciplinary information. And I gave you a list with suggestions about resources. This is from page 7, week 7. And then I gave you these links about locating organizations. And I think in many cases, those links were just too overwhelming, too many different things. And so I've gone in there and made some suggestions about some sources that you might want to use. So in nursing, I suggested that you take a look at this Excelsior OWL. Excelsior is a college in New York that that teaches, is primarily a nursing school. And they have really good online writing lab. And so their website provides some interesting information, helpful information about some of the types of documents that you do in nursing. Additionally, and I suggest you do this in all of the disciplines, I've gone in and identified the appropriate link at ULR for the department. So the School of Nursing has statements about end of program student learning outcomes. And they borrow this, well, they don't borrow it. These basically track what their accreditation body says we have to follow. And you'll notice that on the BSN, for example, that number 2 is communicate and collaborate within interdisciplinary teams. So they use their standards to identify what kinds of things that they want their students to be able to do. And communicate is both oral and written, of course. The standards in social work can be found from this document, the Council on Social Work Education. And it also includes specific standards about what people in social work need to know. And you'll find throughout it that there is learning, being able to communicate. And actually, Veronica, so the Council of Social Work Education is a subset of the National Association of Social Workers. And Veronica found this from them, and it's a specific article about, sort of a handout about writing in social work. So I went through all the programs and I'll add management to see if I could find something a little more focused on your particular disciplines. So for next class, one of the things I'd like you to do is take a look at some of those and see if they provide any support for whatever you've been finding out already. Questions about that?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay. So we are going to start talking about citing sources in APA, maybe, at least. And social work and nursing explicitly have adopted APA as their mode of citing. In other areas, there are other forms. And I think I'll talk to each person, people who aren't in social work or nursing. I think I'll talk with you individually and we'll just come up with a plan of which one you should cite in. But this little video.
When professors talk about citing sources in a research paper or project, they're actually asking you to do two things. They're asking you to make in-text citations and a works cited page. In-text citations appear in the body of your paper, usually in parentheses. You use them after a direct quote, a paraphrase, or when you mention someone else's ideas or research. In-text citations are written differently depending on what citation style you're using. These are a few examples of common citation styles. As you can see, different academic fields use different citation styles. The two formats students use most often are called APA, which is from the American Psychological Association, and MLA, which was created by the Modern Language Association. In MLA format, an in-text citation following a quotation would have the author's last name and the page number the quote appears on, all in parentheses with a period at the end. APA format is a little different. In that style, the in-text citation would have the author's last name, a comma, the year of publication, another comma, the letter P followed by a period, and the page number the quote appears on. So these are examples of how you would write an in-text citation after a direct quote. There are a lot of variations though. So for example, if you were doing a paraphrase rather than a direct quote, the in-text citation might look a little bit different. The Purdue Online Writing Lab, or OWL, covers all of these examples and more in their very thorough MLA and APA citation guides. Besides in-text citations, you also need a works cited page, which might also be called a bibliography or a reference list. All of these words refer to the complete list of sources that comes at the end of your paper. For every in-text citation in your paper, there must be a full reference in the bibliography. These references include more information on your sources. They're written differently depending on your citation style. This bibliography is an MLA style. Usually, every citation included in a bibliography or works cited page is indented after the first line. This is called a hanging indentation in Microsoft Word. You can do it by selecting the text you want to indent, right-clicking on it, and selecting the paragraph menu. If you find an article or book through a library website or database, you may be able to find a draft MLA or APA citation. In OneSearch, you do this by clicking on the quotation mark and then scrolling down to select the citation style you need. In EBSCO databases, look for the cite link on the right side of the page. But remember, these are only drafts. They can have mistakes in them. In fact, they often do. So always check them for correctness. If you're in doubt, refer to the Purdue Online Writing Lab or to the library's Citation Research Guide for more information on how to create proper in-text citations and works cited pages.
So I wanted to share this with you because it just provided an overview of the whole citation process. And pretty much all citation forms have some kind of in-text indication of what the source is that is connected to a list at the end. Now, I know that citation forms are one of those things that drive students crazy, and they don't quite understand why faculty harp on it so much. But it is a highly rhetorical thing. You are doing this so that it is really easy for somebody else to locate the source. If you just randomly indicate what the source is and include some of the information required and some of it not, and then each citation you have follows a slightly different format, it makes it a little bit harder for your reader to access the information. So the process is to try to do all this extra work to get the citation correct so that your reader will be able to locate things. That's why I say it's a very rhetorical thing. It's also rhetorical in that each of the disciplines have adopted slightly different versions depending on what they need and what they want. So one real obvious difference is between APA and MLA. MLA is what a lot of people were taught in school in K-12 education, may have been taught in English classes. And MLA stands for Modern Language Association. That's what the humanities tend to use. MLA indicates what the source is by a full name, and it doesn't mention anything about date until the very end. APA, on the other hand, only puts the first letter initial of a person in the source, and the second piece of information after the last name of a source writer is the date. Why? Because APA is more of a scientific organization interested in finding new information, and so the date of any kind of source is really, really important. MLA, on the other hand, is a humanities-based and often is looking at historical things. And like, I teach rhetoric, and we're studying Latin and Greek rhetoricians who were from the 2nd century BCE. It doesn't really matter that they're so old, so we don't emphasize the date in our citations. So what I want you to do for next class is go through those that list of disciplinary associations, see if you can find anything else. Look especially at the ones I put that said most helpful, etc. So see what kinds of disciplinary associations have said about writing in your profession. So that's one thing. 2, we started talking a little bit about researching using the academic databases at the last class. I showed you when Abby asked the question, this handout. So that handout goes back over what we did at the last class. You can also watch the last class, October 13th, to get a reminder. And that particular recording is shorter than the others because I divided you up into groups, and the groups we end up the groups during the breakout period, I end up cutting that out. So the second thing to do is see if you can find at least one other article that you might use in your report. You can also use the ones that I shared with you last week or last class. And then 3, start thinking about APA or MLA. The 4 students who aren't in nursing and social work, we need to discuss what would be the most appropriate thing. As Dana, as you said, the lawyer said APA and MLA was meaningless to the lawyer. And so we need to discuss whether you should use one of those or
He said that by quoting citations and stuff, that you go by the blue book.
right. The blue book is the lawyer thing. Now, I don't know if, well, you and I can discuss what you'd like to do.
Okay.
So, any questions? I hope everybody has a really great week, and it's the weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Y'all too.